You've tamed the voices in your head. You've put your courage to the test. Laid all your doubts to rest.
Hi everyone, welcome to episode number 6 of Intuitive Queens podcast. This is your intuition queen, and today I have the pleasure to have with me Robin L. Owens Phd, who is the creator of the purpose-based decision-making system. Hi Robin, nice to have you here.
Hey Mara, it's good to see you. So good to be here.
Good to have you here. All right, so you have created this system, which is the purpose-based decision-making system, and
Yeah.
I'd love to talk to you about this. But before we get into the nitty-gritty, I'd love to hear your story a little bit, because I know you have a really beautiful story of how you started and how you got to here.
Yes, you're right. I do have a story that is filled with decisions, right? That led me to this. But I'll tell you about the first one, and we can take it from there, however you want to. All right. So my first professional job into a career, moving from college into a career, I worked for a bank, and I was a manager of a branch in the bank. And by everybody's standards, including all my family, friends, loved ones, I have arrived. It was a successful position to have. And people at that age, I was in my 20s, mid 20s, really would have coveted that kind of position. Mm-hmm. But it was the kind of position that it was nothing wrong with it. But for me, it wasn't a good fit. I just didn't enjoy it. It had gotten to the point where I could almost not tolerate getting up to go to work in the morning.
Wow.
Sunday nights felt like cruel. It was like, it's just so much pain to think about Monday morning to have to get up and go to work. But I did it. I got up and I went. And as the time went on, I started getting headaches related to the stress of the job, but I just kind of pressed my way. And then at one point I would be at work and my nose would just start bleeding, just automatically start bleeding, signs of the stress. And one day it just got so bad I just couldn't take it anymore. I just went out into my car at my lunch break to eat my lunch quietly and to think, because I knew this was not working for me. So I asked myself, what would I do if I could do anything? If I could do anything. And just, it occurred to me right away in that moment, the answer came to me. I was still finishing up my college classes. So I said I would just finish and get my bachelor's degree. And then I would go on to a position where I could make a difference in other people's lives.
Wow, you were really young there.
Yes.
And it's amazing that you were already so self-aware.
Yeah, you do a lot of work on intuition. I'm sure that was a lot of intuition at work in there.
Oh yeah, yeah, I would.
Because it was like a light bulb moment, it just came.
Yeah. And so what happened? So what did your intuition tell you at that point?
So at that point I felt relieved. Sometimes when you get the answer, you feel the sense of relief, right? Yeah. Even though the thing hasn't happened yet. And so I decided, I put everything in order so I could think about leaving the job. And at that point I was still living at home with my mother. And so I first talked to her and said, I really want to leave this position. And so I had her support, although she could not understand it. She came from a generation where if you got what she called a good job, you didn't leave it. Yeah. Like this is the thing.
My parents are the same.
Yeah. This is what people strive for, right?
Yeah.
Because it was like that for them.
Yeah. I changed a few jobs, and I remember every time it was a conversation like, but why? It's like, because I want more. I want to be happier. Yeah. Oh, why? You have a job. It's like, I don't understand.
Yeah, it's a very different understanding, right?
Yeah,
very different understanding.
Completely.
But fortunately, even with that, she still supported me, which I was grateful for. She said, yes, you have my support, and that's in essence had her blessing. So the next step then was to go in and give my letter of resignation and talk to my boss at the time. And I explained to her that I was leaving the position because I wanted to make a difference in others' lives.
Wow. What did she say?
And I'm thinking she probably, either, she had the professional front, but now looking back, I'm imagining she either chuckled with amusement or either rolled her eyes inside her head, because I had no plan. My plan was, I'm going to make a difference in people's lives. And I was ready to go and do it. I felt really good at that.
I can just picture the whole situation.
Yeah. I felt free and liberated.
Yeah, that's a beautiful feeling anyway, even if you don't have a plan. And I like that you say this, because I feel too many people want to have a solution and then have a plan to action straight away, so then they do what they're supposed to do. But really what you need to understand is have a general idea of where you want to go, and then slowly things will come up.
Yes, I agree wholeheartedly. And then you'll know what the next steps to take.
Yeah.
If you're able to do that. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
So what happened next? What you finish obviously your degree, and
I finished the degree, and now it's my time to make a difference, right? So how am I going to make a difference? So I thought to myself, well, I'm going to put together some things that I really enjoyed in the other job, even though most of it, I didn't. And I realized I really love public speaking, and I knew now I had this kind of mission to make a difference. So those two things were my guiding point. So I began to look for jobs, and I saw one for a company that was a privately owned company that helped women on welfare get back into the workforce. So they had been out of work for a while, and now this company helped them get employment. And the position, they called it a pre-employment instructor. In essence, I would be helping the women on their interview so they can go back in the workforce. So I thought, oh, this is a way for me to make a difference, and I could do some public speaking. All right.
You got it.
I applied for the job and I got it. And when I got the job, I absolutely loved it. Loved it. I was doing my thing. I get to speak and I get to help the women. So I'm making a difference. And the thing that really struck me was I saw the difference I was making in the women's lives. I saw it, and I was just so amazed. I couldn't even believe I was getting paid to do this job. That's how much I loved it.
Yeah, I can imagine. It's
Yeah.
beautiful when you see their transformation along the way, when they start to believe in themselves, especially when they come from such a background. You come without confidence or with a very low confidence. So that's amazing.
You're absolutely right. That was one of the biggest issues. They had very low self-esteem because they hadn't been working, and it's just the circumstances of their lives. So you're right. It was wonderful. But as it is often with life, when there are such good things, there's always some challenge, right? Often there's some challenge. And in this case, this company had always had this threat of going out of business because the funds were always not quite there. They didn't know if they were going to take it, even though they were doing such good work. And so that threat over my head made it hard for me to continue with the work. I had been there a couple years, and like I say, absolutely loving it, but I had to make a decision about the financial stability of the company and then my own financial stability. So I made a decision, rather than waiting for them to come in one day and say, we have to close the doors. I want to move on where I don't have to have that worry and stress.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Because it's nice to do a job that you love, but of course, if you are stressed out, you're not going to perform at the maximum of your ability. You're not going to enjoy that much.
Yes, right. And even though I went there based on my value of making a difference, I had another value of the financial stability.
Of course, yeah.
It had the passion, it had the value, but it didn't have all the values, right?
Yeah.
So that one was important to me. So once again, I put in my mind, try to put together, so what would I do? Okay, so I have this knowledge now. I still want to make a difference. That's one of my values, and I understand financial stability is important. So an organization that doesn't have the threat of going out of business. And I realized when I was doing that, working with the women, because they were going for jobs, part of my job was to be a role model for them. Part of it was my attire, the way I dressed. So I was always dressed for an interview. Always have on a business suit and heels and this kind of thing. So now as I thought about my next role, I thought, I really value comfort. I'd rather not have to dress like I'm going to an interview every day. Actually, ideally, I'd love to be able to wear jeans to work.
That's a very, very specific goal.
Right. That was my goal. Comfort was my value, and the goal was to wear jeans. So now I want to make a difference, and I want to wear jeans, and I want the company to be stable. So I'm telling a friend this, and especially the part about jeans. And she said, "Oh, well, I saw a social worker who came into my office. She was a manager at a rental company, and she was wearing jeans, and it got my attention. She was wearing jeans. Wait, what? She was wearing jeans. So in my mind, okay, social worker, make a difference, jeans. So then
Ding!
this is my
I
next.
love how things come together for you very quickly and very easily.
It's that intuition, I guess, again, even guided by my, my particular oddity about comfort. And so I applied that. That was the state of Connecticut at the time. I was living in Connecticut here in the US. And so that was the state of Connecticut Department of Children and Families. And my job was to then investigate cases of child abuse and neglect.
Oh.
And I thought, well, hey, it's an opportunity to make a difference. And if those kids have to go through such hard times, at least they have someone who cares. And so that was my
And
goal,
that's
to bring
beautiful,
in
yeah.
love to the work. So I got the job and started doing that work and wearing jeans.
I love this.
Not every day, there are certain days you had to dress.
Of course, but
But there were some jean days, and I
just
really
the fact that you can whenever.
love that. I love that about it.
I love this. Well, which actually I need to say it's really common. Like I when I speak to women, I know that a lot of this comes across quite a lot of times. Like, I want to be comfortable. I want to wear comfy clothes, and I'm like, okay, makes sense, and I understand, because when you can decide to wear like a suit or something, or a dress, but when you can just be yourself and dress, I get it. It's very common.
Yeah, it is. For some people, I guess it's the opposite, but for me, that made me feel better. Yeah.
So you're doing this job where you are helping children, and well, I guess at this point you have it all.
Yeah, so it would seem, right? It would seem. And when I took that position, my friends were concerned that, I was too sensitive, and that I'd have this, I'd be probably tempted to want to adopt all the children.
Okay.
Which it never came true, although I appreciate their care and concern. It didn't come true. But one thing, after years now, I had been there for 5 years. And then one day, I never had any issues. And I mean, I saw a lot of painful situations, but this day somehow something registered in my mind. I had these two little kids, cutest little kids, blonde hair, blue eyes, in the back seat. They had to leave the care of their mother because of some neglect going on because of her mental health issues. So it's a really sad story, because she had no control over it, right? But for their safety, they had to leave the home, and so I was taking them to their foster home. And the older one was about 2, and the younger one was about 1, and you can tell in the look in their faces. I'm looking at them in the rearview mirror that they were just despondent. They had an idea that they weren't just going somewhere with a stranger and coming back home. I felt like they knew. So I stopped at McDonald's to get them something, because sometimes the kids, that would soothe them a little bit. Were kind of leaving. And so the older one was just holding the hamburger in her hand and just staring straight out. And she was wearing a necklace that her mother had given her. It was a necklace, but it had a piece of candy on the end of it. And the candy was in the shape of a pacifier, like a lollipop, but it was a pacifier. And so I'm watching them in the rearview mirror, and the other one, the little one, starts to cry, kind of like not even a screaming cry, but that just sad kind of cry. And the older one is trying now to soothe her. So she takes the necklace with the lollipop, and she puts it in her mouth, in her little sister's mouth, to try to soothe her. And as I'm watching this in the rearview mirror, tears just slowly come out of my eyes. It was just, my heart was just broken at this scene.
Wow.
So that was a moment that I knew that I probably wouldn't be able to do this job effectively much longer. So now,
And this happened to you all of a sudden, like you did your job with so much passion that you didn't realize how this was breaking you to see all the children going through what they were going through.
yeah, that was part of it. You're right. And also during that, some months before then, my mother had suddenly passed away from a heart attack.
Yeah. So
So,
you were in that kind of situation where a lot of things reflect to you, and
yeah,
you feel even more.
yeah. I think sometimes when we go through some sort of tragedy or trauma or brokenness ourselves, like my heart was broken at the passing of my mother,
Mm.
now my sensitivity was open. I guess
Oh
that's
yeah.
the stuff that my friends were concerned about now could,
Mm.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But before that, I didn't, I cared and I felt the pain, but it didn't impact me to
Yeah.
that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I guess that when you're doing it with such a passion and love, yes, of course you feel sorry for them, but it's kind of like, okay, I'm here to help.
Yes.
But
It's a,
then I guess that wears you out and you don't even realize it does it. And then you have your personal issues, and that just becomes all of a sudden like a big, big moment that you just cannot handle it anymore.
yeah. Yeah. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right about that. That's exactly what happened to me. And
So what
so,
what do you, I guess that at that point, I guess you decided to look for another job.
well, I knew I couldn't stay there, but I didn't like the last time I had a clear cut. I'm going to leave. I got to get out of here. I got to go, right? From the last two. But this one, I just kind of said, I know this is not working.
Mm,
Didn't have a real plan and I didn't know, I didn't want to just say I'm going to leave the job. But coincidentally, at that same time, I had all these questions about after my mother's passing, it had all these questions bubbled up about the bigger questions of life, about what happens in the afterlife, what's the meaning of life, what's the purpose of life and destiny. All those kinds of questions were in my mind.
mm,
And so that together between that situation on the job and having those questions and suddenly having this urge and this quest, then I went back to grad school to
mm.
study those, to answer some of those questions.
Right, because I think that when you lose one of your parents or someone that you really love,
Hmm.
you start to really think, what am I doing here? What where do I want to go? Do I want to become? Am I really doing what I should be doing? Even if you have no idea what that means, but I feel it's just a natural reaction because you really realize that people can just be there a second and not be there the second after, and that is so breaking, but at the same time it opens up your mind,
Hmm.
kind of like you wake up all of a sudden.
Hmm.
You're like, who am I? What do I do here? Why am
Hmm.
I doing this? Where do I go? I relate to this because that happened to me when my dad passed away 4 years ago. And it's kind of like I was going on an autopilot. Okay, yeah, I need to do this. I need to get more money. And then all of a sudden it was like, bum, what now?
Hmm.
And that's when I started, okay, I need to take action instead of just continuously to say I want to be a coach. I just have to become one. I really have to work now. And that's
Hmm.
what made me take action and never stop from there. So I
Hmm.
guess it's just that kind of thing. And you went to study again.
Yeah. And it sounds, those questions that you were asking yourself, those are the exact same questions I asked myself. Everything you just said is just like that. Those were the
Yeah,
questions.
because I feel like we know our parents are going to pass at some point. You
Hmm.
never expect them to pass when they do,
Hmm.
I guess, even if they get older.
Right.
Um, but really, it cuts off that safety net that you have, even if you don't need them,
Yes.
if that makes sense. Like, because I wasn't dependent, I'm not dependent on my parents at all in any way. I do everything by myself. but for whatever reason, that's the way I felt. It's like, oh my God, and what if something happens to my mom tomorrow?
Yeah.
I'm on my own. I mean, I have a brother, but
Yeah.
it's that kind of, I'm on my own. I need to make things happen, because then I need to create my security net,
Yes.
because otherwise, where am I going to go?
Yes.
That was my questions, my fears. And that was like, okay, I need to do it now. Like, I took time to obviously mourn and get back
Right.
in shape, and be able to actually face something like studying and stuff. But that were my questions. Just like, you have no net below you anymore,
Hmm. Yeah.
so you have to create one.
Yeah. And I'm sorry to hear about your loss, but I'm glad that you found the direction for you, the purpose for you, because otherwise I wouldn't be here talking to you, and
Oh yeah, you too.
everybody who's listening would not have the benefit of your grace and your wisdom. So I'm
Thank
glad.
you, Robin, and the same for you. And I think, as bad as that is, but it made us who we are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure that if we use the same, you got stronger after that.
Yes. You're right. I did. I feel like it. And it put me, because my life was so uh, wrapped around my mother's life, really, I didn't really know who I was
Mm,
separate from her.
mm,
So then it was an opportunity for me to start figuring out who am I, and what's my purpose? Why am I here? What's my life all about? My life doesn't have to center around hers anymore, and it can't, because she's not here. So
mm.
that left put me on this path of pursuing my own purpose, and now helping other people pursue theirs.
Okay, well, before you tell us this, I know there is another little bit of your story that I really like, which is after you graduated with it's that bit where you move from Connecticut and you find a job at the university. I find this amazing. So if you can just tell us this little bit of your story, and then we'll go into in details on what you do and why you do what you do now.
Okay. All right. Yes. So now I'm teaching. I got my master's degree and PhD in religion, because that's where I could ask those questions and study those ancient texts to find out what others thought about purpose and meaning and all that. And so I moved. Now I'm in California. Let's fast forward. Back, all the other stories were located in Connecticut. Now fast
Okay.
forward to California. And I'm finishing up my PhD, or getting close to the end of it. And I thought to myself, well, now it's time to, and I was working part-time while I was doing finishing up the dissertation part of the PhD. And so I said, now it's time for me to start thinking about a position. And I had, about 6 months before I thought about this, a friend of mine asked me to come and do a workshop at a university in Los Angeles, which wasn't far from where I was living. So I went and I did the workshop there for the summer, and I loved it. I loved the campus. I loved the students. I even loved the food in the cafeteria.
Comforted, right?
They got it right. And most of those people there, they had their own sense of purpose, which was probably why I'm drawn to it. They were really connected to the mission of the university, and they all kind of had a sense of purpose. So, okay, so I had done that 6 months before. Now I'm thinking about, oh, it's time for me to think about really applying for full-time positions. So I asked myself, if I could teach anywhere, where would I teach? And so I was on a college campus at the time, very beautiful. I said I could stay here, and then it occurred to me, no, I remember my fabulous summer there. And I said, that's the place I would go. That was Mount St. Mary's University. I said, if I could teach anywhere, I would teach there. And I had asked earlier, just to find out if they had any positions open in the religious studies department, and they said no openings. There's a guy who said he was going to retire, but he's been saying that for years. So now that was in my mind. But this day, just one random Thursday, I thought, well, let me just check and see. So I go onto their website, and there was a position open,
Of course, there was a position open.
full-time tenure track position. I mean, I didn't, it's just random. There it was, right? And so I was like, oh, this is my job. This is my job. Because since I left that summer there, I was wearing a sweatshirt with the name on it and everything. I had been using it to inspire me while I was writing. And so I'm telling my friends, and we all have these well-meaning friends. I tell my friend, this is my job. I'm going to apply for this job. And so the practical one said, are you going to be applying to any other jobs? No, no, because this is my job. So she says to me, that's not the way it works. You're supposed to apply to lots of jobs. Yeah, I know, but this is my job, right?
I love this. You
Right,
manifested the job just wearing the sweatshirt when you were at home.
just went and didn't even know. I just connecting, didn't know I was connecting and loving, right? So I get an interview, which is a major and accomplishment because for these positions, they only interview 3 people across the board. They only interview 3 people. So I arrive on campus and I'm feeling good. And they have a special parking space just for me with my name on it for everybody who's interviewed.
Wow.
And then I see the parking space next door with the name of one of my colleagues from my PhD program. And I'm like, oh no. For the first time, I realized I had competition for my job. Didn't even occur to me that somebody else would
I
even
love this.
applying for that. I just was so focused. And then he walks out. He walks by because they schedule those interviews back to back. So one person's coming out, one's going in. So I see him and I get nervous. And he's looking good. He's wearing this nice suit, tie, and normally he's just wearing jeans and a t-shirt. So I said, well, I guess I'm getting out the car. I have to say something to him, even though it's awkward, but okay. So I say hello and I was like, hey, you're looking good with the suit and tie and everything. So it eased my nerves somewhat. And so then I go into the interview, mention that story about seeing him. And the interview, I had a lot of fun. And they called me 2 weeks later, got the job.
I love it. I love it. I love it. And this is amazing. And you know what I really love about your story is that even when you weren't sure where you were going to go, you were asking yourself already. You were already aligning yourself with what you wanted, with your values, with the values of the company, with what was important for you in terms of comfort, in terms of place or whatever. And your story just says, if you do ask these questions and you know what your values are and you know what is important for you, and of course you knew already at that point that you wanted to help, so that it's a big help. But if you don't, you will probably come across at some point. But just knowing what your values are and what is important for you, it's easier to match another career, even if you have to constantly change for whatever reason you do that. So that I think this is a perfect message for everybody that is watching and listening that feels a little bit confused and is going crazy about, I don't feel my intuition. This is intuition. And she just ask herself questions.
Yes, yes. I asked myself questions, and that this teaching job, I asked myself questions like you mentioned. I knew some of my values, what was important to me. I knew my passions from way back because in those past careers, I would have one or not the other, or two or not the other. So now I created a position where I was able to, as you say, manifest because I had my passions. I knew I loved public speaking and teaching, so that was in there. It was important for me to make a difference, and I thought through teaching I could make a difference in the students' lives. And then I added to it things that I do that I'm good at, right? I'm good at teaching, and not only I enjoy it, but I'm good at it.
Yeah.
So it makes it easy if you're good. It makes the work easy.
It does. It does, because I feel too many times we just get too concentrated on things that are not important or on the name of the company, and we forget what we really want. And you started from the bottom, what you like, what your passions, what you want, what your desires and what your values, and then you found every time a company that will match that.
Yeah.
The more you went, the more you understood that comfort was the thing, and then another thing. So, you just improve going towards what you want, but you have to try. You have to really think about it.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And you have to, like you were both saying, you and I were both saying, this self-awareness. You have to know those things about yourself, right? You
Yeah.
have to know kind of what your passions are, what your values are, what your natural abilities are. And so this now that experience leads me to today and the work I do, because I put all that together, kind of mined my life to see how and studied that in addition to the lives of others, to then create what I'm calling, and you mentioned earlier, this purpose-based decision making system.
Yeah. Tell us about it. What is it? How does it work? Who is it for?
Okay, so I'm trying to help people not go through the years of experience to get to where they want to be, like I did.
Mm.
So I want people to learn from my experience and from the experience of others who I've studied. So this work is to help high achieving women, entrepreneurs, leaders, and others who want to have more impact and purpose. This is the way to do it, because it depends on our daily decisions. I mean, this journey that you and I talked about, my career journey, those are what we call bigger decisions, but I use smaller, what we call smaller decisions, everyday decisions of my
Oh,
life.
yeah.
It's making decisions based on your purpose. So someone listening might say, well, I don't know I can't find my purpose. How do I find my purpose? And, this is a quick way to think about it. You're following your purpose when you are in line with your passions,
Mm-hmm.
your values, your natural abilities. So those three things, your passions, your values, your natural abilities, and you use them in service to something other than yourself.
That is a perfect explanation. Very simple and very basic, and that everybody can understand.
Yes.
Because we all have passions and we all have skills or natural abilities, and we all have values. It's only a matter to really write down everything that you think your passions are, and you might have a lot, but then you just narrow it down, and then you will see where they go with your values and with your natural abilities. But we all have that. It's not something you need to go and get from outside or study for. We already have them when we are 20, and then of course they change through the time and experiences and years, but we have them.
Yes, we do. We do. And if we keep track of them and make our decisions based on them, then we're making purpose-based decisions.
Yeah.
Decisions that lead us to the right place at the right time
Yeah.
and give us confidence in our decisions, where we're not like, I'm so confused, I don't know what to do, and we're stuck and feeling overwhelmed. So
I
yeah.
love this is super simple. I love it. And you know what, another thing that I love, and you probably realize she didn't really mention much intuition as a thing. So it's not that you need to call it intuition. You can call it in the way you want. But she said throughout all her stories, a story of her career, that she asked herself questions. And the question that she asked is, what do I want? What do I like? What I like doing? From the very beginning, when she was a student still. So she got the answer. So you can call it as you want. You can call it God. You can call it intuition. You can call it your heart talk to you, your higher self, your soul. You can call it as you want. There are layers to it, but in essence, they are all the same thing. Is that part of yourself, deep inside of yourself, that already knows what you need. But if you don't ask and you don't listen, you won't match the right career, the right decisions in life, general, private, personal, professional, anywhere in any area of your life. You have to match all those things. You have to ask yourself questions, listen, and trust.
Yes, trust. Yes.
That's amazing. So how can people reach you? How do you help them using your system?
Well, I created a checklist for people who are in the midst of a decision. If you want to do something quickly, you can just go over the checklist And if it meets these 3, 4 things, then the decision is yes. If not, the decision is no. So this is a free,
Wow.
yes, it helps you. I think it saves time. I've heard from others that it really was a benefit for them. So, and so, something free that I offer to anyone who wants it, just go to my website, which is www.purpose-base.com. And I'm sure, Mara, you might have a way for people to get this
Yeah,
information.
so for everybody watching on YouTube, I will put the website on the video, and it's also on the note. So if you're listening, you can just go and check the notes, and you will see all the details where you can find Robin website and everything else, where you can go and check what she's doing. You can reach out to her personally, or if you miss the bit where she says her website, you cannot find the notes, whatever, get in touch with me and I will direct you to her.
Yes, that sounds awesome. Sounds awesome. Yes, and you can start making purpose-based decisions today.
Fantastic. That's so amazing. Oh my God, I love this. This was simple and fun, and I hope everybody watching and listening, you managed to take something out of it. I'm interviewing a lot of women with different stories, and sometimes, it's just that simple. So just ask yourself questions and really dig in deeper. What is it that you want? What is it that you need? And take a piece of paper, write everything down. You might have 100 passions, 100 values, and then you just narrow it down if you're not sure, but we all have it. So it's really that simple.
It really is. It really is.
All right. Perfect. Thank you so much, Robin. It's been such a pleasure for me to have you today. And for everybody watching and listening, I hope you enjoyed it. And if you need to get in touch with Robin, you know where to find her details. Otherwise, you can get in touch with me either on my website, theintuitionqueen.com, or on my email, hello@theintuitionqueen.com. And you can also let us know if you have a story that it's similar to the one Robin has, or if you just want to know more about either Robin or myself. And for today, well, thank you so much, everybody. Thank you again, Robin.
Thank you, Maren.
And I'll see you next week.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye, Mara.
Bye.
Your mind is clearer than before. Your heart is full and wanting more. Your future's at the door.